Hi there, grade 11s and 12s. Welcome to Dandel10n. Today we're going to have a look at data and information management. This will form part of your theory question 4 in your exams. In question 4 of your final exams, you will be often given tables that look something like this. They will give the tables names and also maybe a description or a scenario. In this instance, we have schools, and we want to keep track of which educators are in which schools. Before you even read any further, what you want to do is you want to determine the primary key of each table if it wasn't given. So if we have a look at TBL schools, we can see there's a school ID, and that indicates that would be our primary key. So just place a PK next to your field that you decide on as the primary key, in this case, the school ID. Then go to the next table, and here you can see parcel number. That is a unique number that identifies the educator, which means that it is our primary key, and put a PK next to that as well. We are usually then required to create a relationship between these two tables. What you need to decide is which is the parent table and which is the child table. Our aim is to get a one-to-many relationship. So if we have a look at these two tables, we have one school can have many educators. So therefore, the schools table will be my parent table that have many children. Now, when you create the relationship, it will always start at the primary key of the parent table. In other words, our school ID that we've identified there. And then it would link to another field in the educators table or the child table. So what we want to do is we want to draw a line from this primary key of the parent table to a field in the child table. Now, in this instance, there is no field that we can link to in the educators table, so we would probably be asked to add another field in one of the questions later, or to determine which field would we want to add to the child table as the foreign key, as it is called. You might be asked to draw an ERD. This stands for Entity Relationship Diagram. The first thing you need to do is draw two boxes. Then on the inside of the boxes, on the left, put a noun that describes your parent table. In our example, it held data for schools, so I'm going to put school there. And then my child table that would be on the right, that was my teachers table or my educators table. At the left table, where you have your parent table, you will draw a line and two vertical lines over it. This means one and only one on the left. So a school will appear once and only once in this table. You will then continue with that line, and at your child table, you will draw the crow's foot. So this means you have one or many educators per school. The last thing we have to add is a verb on this line to indicate the relationship between the two entities. So here it says the school employs many educators. Sometimes I do struggle a bit, so I just use has there, but it is better to find a proper verb. And this is what your ERD should look like. We are then often asked what type of relationship exists between the two tables, and that is a one-to-many relationship. You could also be asked to indicate what would the foreign key be in your child table. So in this instance, we will use the school ID field and place it inside of TBL educators so that we can have that one-to-many relationship with a foreign key as the field that would be linking to the primary key of the parent table. A question that is often asked is, why should a contact number not be a number data type? So that is because if the number, which usually starts with a 0 for a contact number, was entered and the data type was a number data type, the leading 0 will be dropped and you'll have an incorrect contact number. We are also then sometimes asked to have a look at the fields and the data types and to select a data type that could be replaced with a better suited data type. In this case, if we look at TBL schools, the number of learners should be changed there to number. If you look at the educators table, which one of these fields do you think have been poorly chosen? Not necessarily the data type, but what it is storing. I would replace the age here with the date of birth, and we're often asked why or to motivate our answers. The reason for this is that the age wouldn't have to change every year, whereas if I have a date of birth, I can use a calculation to determine the age. That will then calculate the age correctly for the day, month, and year that I am currently. Let's say a field was added here called date of birth with a date time data type, but we have left the age field there. We are then asked why should we remove the age field, and that would be because it is redundant. Because I can calculate the age from the date of birth field. Any field that can be calculated from another field would be a redundant field. Further questions can also be asked about the design of the form for where the user would provide input. So let's have a look at the number of learners. What object on the form would you suggest they add? It should be a spin edit, since the number of learners will be an integer number and a spin edit is what we would use for input for an integer. We are often given a form, and then for input for the gender, we have two checkboxes, one for male and one for female, and then we have to criticize that layout. Now, when you have checkboxes on a form, it means that the person can click on both. So they would be able to click on both male and on female. And we often ask then to replace that object with a more appropriate object. Something like a combo box or a radio group would be more appropriate. Again, asked to motivate your answer because they can click on only one of them. To ensure that we have valid input for fields like the type and the position here, where we only have a set number of values that should be entered, we would then always suggest that we use a radio group or a combo box to ensure that we have the valid input from the user. Thank you guys for watching Dandel10n. Remember to leave some comments if you have questions. This was now covering the data and information management section, which would form part of your question 4 in your final theory exam. In my Dandel10n workbook, you will find more activities helping you to practice for this question. Hope to see you soon.